Hey team, Major General Wilcox here with Miss Lorna Estep, our executive, senior civilian executive in AFIMSC this morning. Glad to be coming at you from Warfighter 1, our conference room. You know, a little bit different, no field trip this morning, but did want to get together with you. Haven't talked with you live here in about a month and give you a rundown of where we are, where we've been, kind of where we're going, and then again answer some questions for you. So wow, what an 8-week journey that we started here about 7 or 8 weeks ago. I remember when we first all went into telework status and I couldn't even get VPN to come up. You know, and now the Air Force has added over 350,000 different VPN technology tools, in-person video, a lot of advancements to make telework work. And we'll talk about that here in a little while. As for the workforce, we currently have one person across the entire AFIMSC enterprise that's currently positive for COVID-19. And that person is at their house and has been at their house, under quarantine, self-quarantine and telework for the last 3 or 4 weeks. So at no time did they come in contact with or were they ever in an office to do that. Total to date, we've had nine people that have tested positive for COVID-19. 8 have recovered. It goes to show you how quick it could spread. We had, of those 8 that have recovered, 3 were in one family. And a person came into the home and that was carrying it, and 3 of the family members got it. So it's important, that we take the right steps. Social distance while remaining connected. We got to take those correct physical proximity steps at home and at the grocery store and everywhere we go in addition to work. So 8 recovered, 1 currently with COVID-19. We've been absolutely worked hard, and with a little bit of luck, we have been able to keep COVID-19 out of all our work facilities over the last 2 months. At no time have we had to go in and deep clean any of our facilities or do contact tracing. That's where you go back from somebody that has actually been tested positive and find out where they were and those folks that they've come in contact with. So our facilities are still in pretty good shape. So as a workforce, you guys are doing an amazing job of keeping COVID away from, our most valuable resource, which is yourself, and keeping it out of the workplace. My number one priority through this and always, continues to be you and your family. And all the actions that we're taking now and will take into the future are centered around you and your family. If I can keep you and your family safe and give you the technological tools that we're trying to push out there, then we are getting the mission done. And I think we'll actually be in this posture for some time. I know it's a huge weight on everybody's mind as the president rolls out his reopening the country and the Department of Defense talks about returning to a full capacity, and the Air Force talks about that. Absolutely an important piece that the Air Force and country need for the economy to keep the mission going and everything like that. But not everything is built the same. It's not a cookie cutter approach. We're doing a fantastic job taking care of the mission in the environment that we are currently operating in. If you talk to anybody in the medical world, this can be expected to go in peaks and valleys for the next 12 to 18 months. This is not going to go away in 3 weeks, a month, or even by the end of the summer. I think next fall we'll see, things being taken into account for the potential, return to school in the communities, etc. If you look at what at least the mayors are opening back up in the country, it's those areas where you can still have easy social distancing but kind of build resiliency. Parks. JBSA opened up the golf course today, opened up JBSA Canyon Lake, and opened up Outdoor Rec just to check things out. That's for family resiliency and to build those things, because we do got to get out of the house a little bit. I take my family and we go out. We enjoyed the golf course for the last 6 weeks because at the end of the day, we were out walking on the golf course. Shh, don't tell Lackland. We were out there doing that. And that was a great time. But now they're opening up some more of those resiliency things in a smart way. The return to full capacity is exactly the same way. I do not foresee us returning the entire workforce or even a large part of the workforce back to the buildings anytime soon. We're going to have 12 to 18 month peaks, as I stated before. And if we're getting the job done in the posture that we're in, then why not continue while we're still battling COVID-19? So I sat in on a brief this morning from the Air Force Sustainment Center, and one of the organizations that's similar to us, out of their 2,800 folks, plans to keep 2,500 on telework. We're going to be exactly in the same boat and try to follow the same model. Now, I'm not going to say you'll never have to come back into the office, because we'll have to come in to get IT, or you may have to come in to get a file, or you'll have to come in for a secure VTC or a potential need, but just bringing everybody back to the office is not my intent to do that. When we do start bringing people back to the office, you can expect it to be in broken, smaller groups. There's a lot of questions out there on, hey, how am I going to be safe in my cubicle? What are we going to do for cleaning? How are we going to do all that? I'll get into that here in a sec, but I want to throw it over to Miss Estep and let Lorna talk to you for a minute also, before I take it back, walk you through some more things, and we start answering some questions. At the end, the bottom line for this all is the old way is not the new way. We are not striving to go back to the old way. We are striving to do things better, smarter, and safer for you and your family. And through this technology, being smart, changing both military and civilian personnel practices, we're getting there, and we will get there. So I'm not calling you next week and say come back to work. I'm not calling you in 2 weeks or a month and saying come back to work. We're working through a lot of that now, and we have the answers for a lot of it, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But Lorna, over to you.
Thanks, sir. And thank you out there on telework land for what you're doing for our Air Force. We continue to get great feedback as we're taking care of the mission of the Air Force on how well you're doing, so I appreciate that. And I know it's not without some amount of ongoing pain, if you will. The general mentioned when we first went on telework, I couldn't get on VPN till midnight, to get the capacity that we needed. Now with the new technology that we've got there and the several methodologies in VPN, I'm on all day without getting kicked off. So it's really great. And General Bunch and all of the leaders in the Air Force are saying, we're not going back to pre-COVID-19. Just because we've seen the advantage of the technologies, why wouldn't we take advantage of that? We just got off of a CVR. Who would have known what that meant? 8 weeks ago, we've got new technology out there where we listened to the briefs that the Sustainment Center gave on the return to full capacity and watched people brief online on the VTC. In this case, right here in the office, but yesterday we did the same thing, and I did it from my house. And I will tell you, my experience at my house was a lot better than coming back to this network, because I don't know if you noticed, sir, there was a delay in the picture and there was a delay in the sound on this network. When I was Wi-Fiing in through the VPN on my house, there was none of that delay. So we are actually having a better experience, I believe, in telework than on our IT side than we actually are here in the building. So why would we come back to watch that little blue circle of death on our screen when we're having a good experience in taking care of the mission from our houses or from other locations? So that's been great to get at this technology, and that's actually been an irritating for us for quite some time. The second piece of that is there are going to be times where you're going to have to come back into the office in order to get the mission done, or to be able to continue to get access to the technology that you need at your house, or the information that you need from your home. There's lots of considerations that we have put in place, as you probably noticed. This is actually not a normal, quote, policy telework. We've opened up our policies on teleworking to provide max flexibility. And I know we have several questions on that. But we're looking at policies, and have actually been asked by the air staff this morning, what policies are out there that we need to change in order to enable the new future state for us to get the mission done in entirely different methodologies than we've done in the past. How we use technologies to do our mission, and what other things do we need to put in place to make it easier to do that, while we continue to reduce the risk to our people and risk to our force in this environment, as well as in what we're finding out, any potential pandemic or flu type situation. So I'm proud to be part of the team. We've had great success over the 8 weeks at improving our experience at getting the mission done from alternate places than here in this building or wherever your permanent facility is. Sir, that's all I have.
No, that's a great point. So I came into the office yesterday, and I hadn't been into the office for a while, and the land in the building is worse than it's at my house. When I got that blue circle of death that just kept coming back, I said I had forgotten about that, because I had been out of the office for a little while. I'm not even coming to the building every day, gang. I was here twice this week, one day last week, and 2 weeks before that, I was not in the building. It's only if I have to come in for a specific task or something am I coming to the building. And we've done some pretty good things around the building. We've increased the contractor cleaning of the general areas 3 times a day. They walk through the hallways and the restrooms, and are squaring that away. We're looking at a lot of things as we go forward. Cleaning stations in the bays, in the hallways, some type of self-screening potentially at the doorways, for temperature or IR. But the number one thing is, don't come in if you don't feel good. Don't go anywhere. Don't go out of your house. Segregate yourself in your house. There's going to be a lot of self-policing in this, just like there is now with, washing your hands, and keeping at least 6 feet. We all got masks. We're buying masks for everybody. I got my mask right here. We bought 1,250 masks, got them in for the folks that may have to come in initially, and we got another large batch coming in. When we do start coming back in, or you have to come in, it's going to be a joint shared experience. We'll take care of the commercial areas, and we've already upped that, but we're going to ask folks to take care of their cube. We're going to have to take care of our own workspaces, as we move forward. Hey, gang, I'm well versed on the child care piece, too. Child care piece, high-risk folks you got living with you in your house. Maybe you have a parent living with you. I'm not going to ask you to come back to work with that. I know we're building our way ahead around these atmospherics that are located in the local area. Let me give you a recap of what JBSA looks like. Only mission essential folks can go to the CDC. Why? Because the CDC workforce is high risk, has high risk folks also. So they can't maximize, and they don't have a full capacity CDC on base. Well, the capacity is not off base either. And I realize summer programs are not going to be going on. Camps through the youth center, or camps downtown, sports camps. All my kids' camps are canceled. My wife has become jack of all trades, and now Marion is a homeschooler teacher. every day with our 6-year-old and watching out, for our 10th grader. So I know you are balancing work with that. We're building and trying to max flex schedules. Maybe you got to work a couple hours in the morning, do some of that, work some time in the afternoon. I got it. We're getting there. I totally know that you need to be there for telework. When I first got here, I wanted to make PT available, physical training, physical fitness available on telework. The Air Force rules and the DoD rules didn't support it, but they do now. We just got word 2 days ago that we can do and we can authorize PT for civilians while they're in telework. So I'm working through that, and in the next 3 weeks, we'll have that out that'll allow you to do it. Now, I won't be able to allow you to go to the gym where there's 5,000 people, and it's in violation of those social distancing norms. But if you want to go run, if you want to go walk, if you want to play tennis, there are options that we can do in line with our COVID-19 posture that we're trying to get there. So our director of staff is working with all the PSUs and the directors to build a back to capacity plan. When you hear that, it doesn't mean we're bringing everybody back. I can't stress that enough. It's just even when small numbers start coming back into the building every day, we want to have plenty of cleaning supplies on hand. We want to have the general areas cleaned. What my narrative has been, people say, hey, well, we need to redo the entire cube farm and reallocate space and do all that. Well, that means that we're going to bring everybody back in, and we need to. Let's spend that money on technology, teleworking tools, and thin the workforce out by using max telework so we don't have everybody in the building. That we're not going back to the old way. That is not the goal. The goal is a new and improved way ahead with technology. Sure, we want to see your face, and we'll see your pretty faces every, periodically, and folks will have to come in, but there's ways to work it, and that's where we're trying to go with some of that. So, Lauren, you got anything else before we take some questions?
No, let's go to the questions.
All right, Mike, what do you got, man?
All right, sir. You might have hit on some of these. You covered a lot of the turf, but there's obviously concerns that people have about their health when they do return. You mentioned having stations and all the sanitation. Someone has asked, you mentioned our own workspace is our responsibility, but would there be some level of a building-wide sweep or fogging or something with the HVAC system that would take care of it one time, and then we come in and make sure we keep our areas clean after that?
We are taking a look at that with Port San Antonio, who we lease the facilities from. We actually are working a project to install UV lights that kind of sanitize the flow coming from that. We've put out guidance to the entire Air Force on, HVAC filters, HEPA filters, and what that looks like. We're exploring the fogging. I mean, we got to do that in conjunction with the CDC. So we're waiting on CDC guidance. I mean, the CDC gives us cleaning standards and the right cleaning supply, and we follow 100% what the CDC guidance looks like. So, as far as cleaning the building, absolutely, they're in cleaning the building today. The cleaning of the building has never stopped. So I don't want anybody to think that we just got up, walked out of the building, and it's been locked up for 2 months. The cleaning contractors and the custodial workers have been here doing that, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the general spaces, exactly what they used to do, but we have increased that. You'll see them in the hall daily. They're wiping down the rails. They're wiping down the doorknobs. They're doing that, as we come back. And we're taking a look at technology, on how to fix that. How do we make door openers? We got buttons on the doors now, right? So how do you make doors automatic where they can open up? Or I can put my foot in a door and open it. We got fire safety that we got to work through and things like that. Touchless towel dispensers potentially in the bays with the cleaning supplies so we all don't have to touch. We're working through all these things and we're getting there. But it could be possible you have to come in, to get something before that. The building has never been shut. Folks have been, coming in to get an IT refresh, their computer stops, something like that. I could take you out there and show you the parking lot, though, out front, where you can't ever find a parking place, and you got to go down by the gate, completely empty. Just not a lot of folks. But we're going to have to be smart. Is riding in a van pool on the way to work with 10 people, that's not even in the thought process. First, those 10 people ought not to be coming in. But, we got to practice that smart social distancing while still remaining connected. Here's some other cool things that we've been working through and doing. So I did a re-enlistment this morning, and we had a flag, and we were well social distanced. I'm doing a retirement ceremony that won't occur till May the 8th, but I'm taping it this afternoon, and they're going to put a video together for it. I'm online to do another one next week or the week after, where we're going to do it on Microsoft Teams CVR, and we're all going to come together virtually on the screen for their family, friends, and they're going to invite them in. When I tell you we're looking and we're doing new technology, for 2 weeks, I didn't come into the building. We had virtual meetings, and now we have virtual meetings with video, so I can see your pretty face and hear your voice, make sure everybody's doing good. We're doing video, we're doing audio, and we've had I've been on meetings with upwards of 80 people on the meeting. Now, you can't all have video on at the same time, right? The person that's talking has the video. But upwards of 80 people, we have been on these meetings, and they're working great. So if there's a problem with your computer, if you don't have that technology, let us know. We'll get it on there. But that train is moving so fast, it's doubling in capacity almost about every 2 weeks. So a lot of good things with the building, to keep the building safe.
Ma'am, the boss talked about the PT policy. We have a question. Would people be allowed to have professional development time too when they're teleworking? Is there any been discussion about that?
Absolutely, and in fact, there is policy today that enables us to combination between the PT and personal development, take 3 hours to do development or the PT a week. So that policy exists. It hasn't changed, and in fact, in some of our newsletters that we send out on a weekly basis, we put some links in of some things that are available free online. There are some Ivy League training classes or school and leadership classes that are available to you online to take as you're capable while you're teleworking from home. I want to provide kind of some thoughts to you on how to work with your supervisor to make sure that you're getting the max out of your telework experience. And the first thing is, we understand that we need to be flexible. We have relaxed the telework policy, where it used to be, if you recall, we made it very specific that your telework time was work time, and you weren't to be taking care of parents or children, or was not an alternative to child care or alternate health care. We've relaxed that to say, hey, we're flexible in the schedule. Work with your supervisor. We understand if from 10 to 2 you've got to do the child care thing or take care of a parent, so you can work from 8 to 10, you can work from 2 to 6, alternate your hours so that you can get in your 40 hours a week, but we're not asking you to do it without taking care of kids at home, because we understand child care is not available. Work with your supervisor on, if you see, hey, I have an afternoon free, none of those tele meetings, none of those phone calls. For some reason, we're very productive as we're doing the telework, and you got an afternoon free. Take a couple hours and take one of those self-development courses online. Let your supervisor know that that's what you're going to do. So This is about you taking personal responsibility for yourself and for your risk and for your time, and letting your supervisor know what you can do, and having your supervisor then enter into the, well, I really need you for this 10 o'clock meeting. Can you do some of the home care before that, take telecall, and then go back to what you need to do? Have that dialogue and be open with your supervisor on that. We are really being flexible as leaders right now to get the mission done, but to deal with the fact that we are in a pandemic. We have high-risk folks out there. We know members of your family may be high risk. You yourself may be high risk. There's a tremendous amount of flexibility for you to continue to work. And as the boss said, I believe we are really lucky in how we've been able to pull this together on this telework and meet the mission. As you go around this community, you know and you see other businesses and other activities that have not been able to enable their employees to continue to work, and it's put a severe stress on families and the economy. You may have a member of your family that is in that circumstance as well, that has not been able to work because of this pandemic and the requirement for physical distances and the closure of specific businesses that now are opening up. We, as a Department of Defense and as a federal government, have put a great deal of flexibilities to enable our folks to continue to work. And for that, I am thankful, and I feel that we've been very lucky and been able to keep the mission going.
I do too. I mean, I think you guys are doing a phenomenal job on getting the mission done. Let me give you a couple of great success stories that you as a workforce have done here in the last month or so. When we entered into telework probably 8 weeks ago, we had Lauren, about 213, 215 folks that could not do telework at all. I mean, they were not capable of telework. 125 or 26 of those were at Ellsworth Air Force Base, at one of our travel voucher processing locations. Big shout out to Ellsworth. But they couldn't do it because the system that they operated was not capable of telework. Probably about 3 weeks ago, we worked with the Air Force through the A6 channels and the IT, and they rolled out a new VPN, which actually allowed us to connect to that system through that VPN, URAM. If you remember when URAM rolled out, we could connect now. We had to work some of the gateways and we had to work some of those issues, but now every day they're on 100% telework. About 6 of them still have to come in every day to process, and push things into the higher federal U.S. Treasury, computer system, but they're on 100% telework. Right here in Building 1, our very own, Air Force Services Center, the Shared Services Center, and some of the other, payroll functions when we left, we didn't know where we were going to be able to do there. And now they are on 100% telework almost. I walked through the services bay yesterday. There was one person in there. So they got to come in. A few of them got to come in every couple of weeks to hand jam the checks, right? I mean, I don't even think we could carry that printer home with us. It's so big. But we come in, print the checks, get them in the mail for that, and then go on. We were the first center in AFIMSC. General Bunch said, hey, get the telework, get out, protect. We did. And this week we transitioned our crisis action team, which is up and in communication with the AFIMSC all the time. We transitioned our crisis action team, which, nobody ever thought we'd be able to do that, to a telework status. We don't have the SIPR yet. We have the tools that we think we know how to do it, with some new technology that has come out. So if they get a SIPR task, they got to come back in. But through this other technology, they can real-time call, video, chat anybody to take care of anything that comes in. So that's what we expect to continue over the next 6, 12, 18 months to facilitate and increase our mission productivity while taking care of you. So, got another question for us, Mike?
Yes, sir. Ms. Estep, when you were talking, we got a question in, and it was about the word not potentially getting to supervisors, of what you were saying about the flexibilities, and I think some people think maybe their supervisors are treating them like business as usual. Is there a way to perhaps send some type of information out that summarizes the flexibility that we have? I think these people are concerned that their supervisors aren't hearing that same message you just gave in the town hall.
Certainly, we continue to message what the capabilities are and what the revision to the rules are, and we can certainly do that. And if you feel that for some reason you can't talk to your supervisor, go to the next level up the chain of command. There's someone in the chain of command that understands the flexibilities and can work your particular issues. We communicate, we're having this town hall today, and hopefully every supervisor is on here listening, but there's probably some that's on a mission phone call somewhere that are not listening to this. We're constantly communicating, but there is occasionally one person that doesn't get the word, and then we need to elevate that up so that we as the leadership can deal with that. We want to make sure that you monitor and take care of yourself, and then we want all the leaders up and down the chain to do the same. This is a lot about personal risk. I was thinking about, our safety messages that we used to do, right before grilling season, which is almost coming out. Remember, you get the safety
call slide.
Yeah, there you go. You get the safety slide that said, "Don't do something stupid like, put gas on top of a lit grill so it burns back in your face." Remember those safety briefs? Well, this is a longer term safety brief where we have to take assessment and do risk management of ourselves, and we have to do that up and down the chain. So I kind of ask you to not just look in your particular circumstance, but also look after the folks that work for you and the folks that work with you as you think about what's the risk associated with this, because it's about minimizing the risk. This physical distancing that we're after, the cleaning things that we're doing, that doesn't avoid the fact that the COVID is around us. That helps minimize the risk of exposure to it, and we need to continue to do that. I know before this, I didn't think about just running to the store after work and picking up pizza or something like that. Now I make a list and make sure that I only go once a week, so I'm not exposed to that. This is the same thing we're asking you to do in the office. Think about what you have to do, but minimize the time that you have to come to the office for the duration of this pandemic, which, as the General said, the healthcare industry is saying will be in spurts for the next probably 12 to 18 months before we actually get some sort of flu shot or serum that will help stem this particular pandemic.
Right. Absolute team ball, gang. It's going to take us all. Let me ask you this question. Go back to 1 February when all this was coming. How many of you thought that we would be almost 98, 99% telework in IMSC? There was a lot. I remember when I sat in front of you with the first BTC that we had, or the first Facebook Live, and then the second, and there were a lot of questions on, hey, are we going to be able to do telework? Am I going to be able to do that? Is it going to be, what's that going to look like? I think we'll have to work through some bumps to continue on and what return to capacity looks like. But the intent is not to go back to the old, so I put it in my message I sent you last Friday. We're talking a lot about it right now. It's going to be built into the plan. I'm talking with the directors and the PSU commanders this afternoon, online video chat. We're back into our normal battle rhythm with IMSC leadership meetings. We started that last week, and we're back into that now, and it's going great. So, we're going to take care of you, and make sure that we don't, have too many folks running around places they don't need to be.
That's a good point. This has been amazing to me because we could sit around this table as leadership in Warfighter 1. Rob probably was a year ago that we started talking about our telework policy, and everybody was saying, I don't know, I don't think we can telework. We can't get our mission done when we telework. We need to have the meetings. We need to physically be here. We need to to be in the building. This is a team sport. Well, 98% of us are teleworking. The mission is getting done. And I'm hearing from some people they feel they're even more productive than they are at work, that there's more time. I know I feel that way, but that's because we're not doing any TDY. So, I'm 100% involved and able to be right on the spot because I'm not on an airplane somewhere, or I'm not, at a different location where you can't get connectivity. So I've become a lot more productive at getting things done. It's our appraisal season. This time last year, I was begging people to get their appraisals in. We're done.
And we had less of a window to do it.
Right. We're not done because we haven't, finished getting it to the employee, but in terms of doing our end of it, we've got it complete. And I didn't even have to make a phone call. So thanks for that, Rob. You probably did, but I didn't have to do it this year.
Right. Ms. Estep's talking to Mr. Rob Jackson of DP, and we have some personnel questions. And 4 or 5 people have asked this, and of 4 or 5 people, we're now at 559 people watching us.
Woohoo!
So
Thanks, gang.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in, as well as thank you to Brandy Grove of the CSS. Brandy's online answering questions for us about leave and leave carryover.
Perfect.
And one of the questions was about civilian leave carryover. Have you heard any updates about that, ma'am?
Not at this point. This is what's happened, just to put it on the table. Recently, they came out with a policy statement to carry over for military their leave because of this circumstance. It had to come out now because you would probably know the military leave year ends in September. And so in order to give a flexibility to folks that are trying to take care of the mission from a telework environment, there's just stop movement, and we just maybe can't get to the leave because of mission requirements of what's happening here. They did that for the military. Our civilian leave does not end until the end of December. And so we have a little bit of time to see how this plays out, to see if we get a respite where we're able to open up and get some more flexibility and travel outside of the local area. And so they're delaying making that decision for civilians for a couple of weeks, probably as much to a month, to see how it plays out in the local areas that we live, particularly in CONUS. But I will tell you, there is already a policy and process in place to make sure that you will be able to get your leave and could carry it over should you need to. And let me give you the policy. The process is set your leave in place now. So if you decide or you need to take some leave and you project that out, let's just say over the Thanksgiving holiday, and you set that leave for that week, you're going to go visit your grandmother, take a pie, do the turkey thing, and for some reason, because we get mission back, your supervisor tells you, I'm sorry, I can't let you go on leave in that weekend. We've got the mission back. We're finally back into the swing, and says, I need to ask you to reschedule your leave. Because you've set that in place, and that's a mission requirement, and you can't get at that leave, that documentation, should you need to carry over leave, will allow us to carry that leave over. So my recommendation to you is go ahead and set your leave out, and then if you can't take it because of mission reasons, there's a way to carry that over. And then as the greater Air Force and DOD, and really in this case, OPM, make the greater decisions of what they're going to do for the civilian, we'll be able to give you that policy as it rolls out. But we have some time for that.
Sure, we've got several questions about masks.
Okay.
And the wear of masks. Is the policy still the DOD policy that you don't have to wear a mask, especially with return to the workplace? What are we doing about masks and enforcing a mask policy?
Right. So right now, the policy is if you can social distance, you don't have to wear the mask. So that's why you see Ms. Estep and I in here. We're about 8 feet apart. You don't have to social distance. As people start coming back into the building and the building starts to populate more, I would anticipate coming to the building and having to wear a mask. We haven't started bringing people back in yet. And if you look across the bays, nobody's here. Nobody is at the building. When I walk around with my mask on. I wore it into here, took it off when I sat down. We're social distance. There it is. San Antonio, if you live in San Antonio, if you're a JBSA, San Antonio mayor said, hey, if you go out and about, and you're going anywhere where there's going to be contact, you have to wear a mask. So right now we have everybody's fashioned their own mask to meet the San Antonio policy and everything like that. We are buying masks for everybody. We're going to issue them to everybody. And I think as you start to see the return to capacity, folks will start wearing the mask in the building. It's really the only way that we'll be able to do it with the number of people in the open bays that we have here will be for everybody to be in a mask. Over.
And what if someone refuses to wear a mask?
Well, I'm sure there's methods that, we'll be able to do that, Lorna. I mean, I know that there's methods, from the civilian side. Now there's medical. There's reasons for not medical. We run across a couple of those, not here in some other centers, but in other areas. You want to talk about that, Lorna?
So this is all about managing the risk to you, but it's also about managing the risk to others, right? So if you personally decide that you can't wear a mask because of health reasons, then we need to make arrangements for you to telework or have alternate work site. If you decide that this is somehow your way of a campaign that you don't want to take care of yourself and your peers by wearing a mask, and you can't telework, we have ways of dealing with the disciplinary process, and we'll work through those. Because you're risking not just yourself, but risking other people, and frankly, we will not allow that to happen. So,
right. From the military side, you can make it an order, and then they have to wear it. There are some legitimate reasons, right? So I listened through at one of the other AFIMSC centers earlier in the week. They talked about somebody who put a mask on and, it was just claustrophobic, freaked them out. They couldn't wear the mask. Okay, then, we'll take a look at that, for that situational telework or whatever. But the plan is to keep the majority of you on telework anyway and not have to bring us in, to do that. Because if you bring it and you repopulate the bay, as soon as you repopulate the bay and somebody comes down positive with COVID, you got to contact trace back everybody in there, and now we're back on telework. So the rubber banding of the workforce, your safety, the safety of your family is not worth the steady state goodness that we're getting right now out of telework.
So a couple of technology questions. While we've made some gains, people are asking some questions. Do we still have to bring our computers in at all for the updates? Are those being pushed to us in our telework capacity?
Right now they're being pushed or it's suspended. So I don't know if we've started pushing them. I think as the VPNs have improved that we're pushing some of the patches over VPN now.
Yes, sir, we are, and that's a good point. So I encourage folks to make sure that, for instance, their virus software is up to date. You can do that by clicking on the little box in the lower left end and looking to make sure that you don't have a little caution sign on your McCaffrey. If you pop that open, it will update. That same little box down there will tell you if you're due an update, and that means you need to make sure you connect to the VPN to get that push.
Okay.
There may be reasons why you have to come in to the building. We recently had a little spillage issue where we had to reformat about 130 computers, and so we scheduled people to come in. We made sure that we scheduled them so that they didn't have to stand in line and they could get their computers dealt with. But there could be a circumstance that you need to actually bring your computer in. In order to get the original Teams version, I had to come in about a week ago to get that application downloaded on my computer. Now, with the new Teams that we do for CVR, you can do that right from home. So there's not a lot of reasons that you'll have to come in, but there occasionally could be to redock your workstation.
Right. I recently heard that almost everybody in the Air Force has a CVR Teams account. Everybody should have got that email, CVR Teams. It gives you a different email address and a different login. But once you do that, it operates on your computer outside the VPN for video teleconference and everything like that, so it doesn't bog the VPN down. So if you don't have that, work that up through your supervisor. But even the IT world, our IT office here is by appointment now. So you don't have to come in, turn your computer over, sit there with 5 other people, in violation of our what we're trying to do with social distancing. But you can make that appointment, come in, drop it off. They can work it. You can come back and pick it up later that day or even the next day. So we're trying to redo all our processes to accommodate, the atmospherics that we're working in.
Ms. Estep, how is the COVID-19 situation affecting our hiring and people PCSing and taking other jobs?
So good question. So interestingly enough, who would think that we could do virtual onboarding of new employees? But the civilian personnel processes have figured out how to do that, and we are hiring and bringing people on board. Now, there has been, as part of the STOP movement, some PCS issues for folks, but we are now working through them, through some exceptions to policies, and if we hire folks, we are bringing them on board and moving them. We have a summer program called PSIP, Premier College Intern Program. All these acronyms. They're actually doing that program, and the first year of that program is trying to get great college students that are in their junior year kind of ready to come to work for the Air Force after they graduate. It's about, getting ahead of that 6 week before they can get their security clearance, all the access and that sort of thing. So we bring them on for one summer, they get that access. The next summer when they come on, because they've already had that done, they're able to come up as a full up round and be employed. This year we're actually doing that onboarding of that PSIP program virtually. So they're not coming into the office to do the onboarding. These are students. They're not graduated yet, but we're going to be able to get their security clearances, do everything virtually, kind of bring them in and virtually bring them into the Air Force culture. And then the next year when they graduate, they'll be ready to bring on. So we have addressed processes across the Air Force. Many of you that maybe use the Air Force medical system or the DoD medical system, or even here in the primary community, have seen that we're doing more telemedical stuff than we have ever done in our past. Doctors are doing things by phone and by video, both on the base and outside in the community. And the debate right now is they're not going to go back to the old way, just like we're not going to go back to they're going to take advantage of that telemedical, which is easier on the patient as well as the doctor, to not have to have physically people come into the office. So I really see our lifestyle changing as a result of this, taking advantage of technology. We're still going to want to get together as a group. We're having a discussion about what do we do, how can we do a virtual picnic?
That's right.
Well, everybody go in your backyard, put the grill on, get your hot dogs out, take a picture, and we'll do a virtual grill, and we'll have some chat about, what's going on. I don't know if you've noticed this, but my meetings are going a little bit longer when I'm doing telephone calls and that sort of stuff. It's not for the topic at hand, because we're handling that within the meeting. Where it is those sidebar conversations that you used to have before you came into the meeting. How's your kids doing?
Right.
How's Marion doing? Hey, I heard you got a graduate. They got a job yet? All those things that we used to do to interact and do that social connection. That's happening on the meeting, at the meeting time, because we don't have that beforehand.
Right.
So last night I started thinking, well, why not? Why don't we have a virtual, go into the platform 10 minutes early and let's have a little discussion, a personal discussion, and then we start the meeting on time and end the meeting on time so folks can plan accordingly. So I think we're going to start changing our habits a little bit so that we take advantage of this, but do that social connection. which is important whether we're virtual or here in the room together.
15-minute freestyle between meetings. I'm all on board with that. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Oh no.
You know?
I just opened up Pandora's box.
But hey, gang, who's doing the virtual 5K with us?
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
We pushed out a virtual 5K, fun or competition. You know, you go, you run it, or you walk it, you do it with your family. You know, anytime over about a 3-week period, you know, we're going to kick a shirt out for it. You know, an IMSC shirt, you get a shirt, and you get to do it on your time. You don't have to show up at 7:30 in the morning to go run with a group. You do it on your time, and then, you know, you post it back if you're competitive. Post your route, post your time. You know, one of the apps that's out there. You know, and we got a rockin' 5K. You know, our services center's taking a look at, hey, what does the services, you know, activities on the base look like in the future? I mean, we can't flip it in one day. I mean, it's going to be an evolutionary process. But all this is ongoing. Those of you that used to have to go TDY for 5 times for one thing, or a project, a construction project, or something like that. I mean, we've got that down now to almost 1 TDY instead of 5. Because periodic reviews we're doing with the technology, the iPads, the computers, the GoPro helmets. I'm getting me a GoPro and walking around with it on my head, right? But that's where we're going with the technology. It's pretty cool.
So how are the debts doing? We talk about some of our situation here in San Antonio, but how are our debts across the globe doing in dealing with COVID-19?
Debts are doing a great job. They're all on telework. We talked up through last week. We talked to everybody 3 times a week in the morning. And we've since transitioned back to our normal battle rhythm now. And the debts are doing a great job. You know, the projects are on point. You know, they're tagged in with the staff. I have gotten no complaints from any MAGCOM, commander, deputy, or any of their A staff. You know, I think because the staff, the MAGCOM staffs, are in the same posture. So we're still getting the mission done, you know, around the globe every single day.
But it is a good point to bring up in that the peak of this COVID runs differently across the world, right? It started China, Korea. So what we're seeing, and because we have geographically separated units in just about every time zone, what we're seeing is that there is a different periodicity that people are encountering across the globe on when the peak is, and maybe when the re-establishment of a new run at this is going to be. And so that's why we've got to be flexible in how we look at our mission and this whole return back to full capacity, because the timing is different for every geographical location. Right. Ohio started earlier. Our parent commands there at AFIMSC, they were on lockdown. Heck, we almost got locked down with them at the senior leader conference. That's right. Remember that?
That's right. Before we got
so they locked down before San Antonio did, and they're now coming out kind of their plateau. The Boston area and the New York area had got hit way before we did, and actually worse than we did, just because their population density is worse. And so the situation locally really has to be taken into account as we come back to full capacity and what that means, because it's different in every location.
That's right. We got folks in a different posture all around the country.
Sir, in conversations with higher headquarters and Air Force leadership, have you heard anything about testing, and is there a plan to do some testing of employees?
Well, the Air Force, obviously everybody wants to try to get more tested and get tested. So, I mean, the Air Force is breaking it down into tiers. You know, it depends on what your mission is. You know, accessions, you know, those that are engaged, you know, in a combat zone. There's some different tiers there. But if you talk with the SG folks, you know, there's no testing somebody that's asymptomatic, you know, is not recommended. First of all, you're testing it, and it's only a point in time. As soon as you walk out, you know, you could get exposed to something else. 2, they don't have enough tests in the processing locations for it. I mean, you can't test everybody every hour, you know, or every time they go to the bathroom or every time they show up to the building, right? So we're taking a look at some of those biometric things We're asking folks to take your temperature at home before you come to work, maybe a temperature scanner at the door when you walk in. But right now the testing is if you have symptoms, they're doing the testing so, we can do the contact tracing. Asymptomatic testing does not work unless you put somebody in a 14-day quarantine, because you just don't know, and you can get a false test, if you're not showing symptoms. So, I'd ask people to go on the CDC website and the SG websites and some of those websites we push out to you and kind of educate on, the testing and asymptomatic. But I think at one point the Air Force estimated it would need about 80,000 tests a day or a month or something like that to get there. And then the national capacity is just not there. They're pushing that, where the hot spots are in the country, in the asymptomatic folks that aren't showing any, we got to give it to the first responders. We got to give it to the healthcare workers. We got to give to those in a combat zone. We got to give it to new accessions before we bring them in and put them, all right there. So I think it's going to be a while before you see massive testing, but the folks that are prioritized higher, are getting that testing. Lauren, did you want to add anything on that?
No, and I think the emphasis is really looking for a serum or a flu shot to be more preventative, because the testing is, like you said, just a point in time, and unless you go into a quarantine situation where you're not exposed, it really isn't going to add a reduction of risk to other personnel because of that testing. There are other things that are better at reducing the risk of exposure. Wearing the mask, cleaning, washing your hands, social distancing, really actually in the end reduce your risk for exposure more than actual testing and showing that you're negative to the test.
That's right.
So a couple of questions about travel, specifically local travel. You mentioned Canyon Lake opened up. That means our folks can go to Canyon Lake and use the rec camp up there. That would be considered local?
Yep.
Okay. Any looking at PCS waivers to allow families to move ahead of a military member?
If there's a justification, right? So we can authorize anybody to move under an exception to policy. We are doing that right now for folks that have to go, based on jobs. The Air Force is taking a look and is coming out with a prioritization. Last I heard, it was an 11 category prioritization that they're looking at because folks are going to have to move. We are approving folks to move right now in June. The stop movement order goes through the end of June. So we're looking at, there's folks moving in June, there's folks moving in July. The services are working to try to get the stop movement order authority pushed down to the installation commanders and the services, based on what's going on locally. Because as we transition, like Ms. Lorna just said, and it's different in every location, we're going to have to manage this locally. So the exception to policies have to be agreed upon by the losing and the gaining commander. I would not PCS somebody in to Boston right now unless there was a dire need to do that for their family. But somebody going somewhere where the numbers are low and they got a good plan, we're approving that. So yeah, Mike, we can work those on a case-by-case basis for the family to go separate, for the family to go later, for the family to go concurrent.
So we just have about a minute left.
Wow.
Over to you. We have several questions. I want to assure people we're tracking the comments. We are going to get a Q&A put together of a transcript of the Q&As, and we'll include answers to the questions we didn't get to, as well as we'll make this video available for those who weren't able to watch it on YouTube.
All right, gang. I just wanted to say thanks and let you know that, myself and Miss Lorna, the senior leadership team at AFIMSC, General Bunch, all the way up to General Golfing, and our secretary are absolutely proud of how everybody is fighting through this and what you're doing every day. We have not seen a reduction, or a large reduction in what we're able to do. We're getting the mission done every day. We didn't even get a curve in IMSC that we had to flatten because, you know, you took it seriously, our leadership team took it seriously, and we did those right, correct preventative measures, you know, to take care of you and your family through that telework. We're going to keep thinking that way. We're going to keep going down those roads so we can take care of our greatest asset. Everybody, I wish a great weekend. Get out and about, go do something, have fun, join us for the 5K. But, you know, the weather's supposed to be nice. I hope it is in your area. Be smart, though. We're doing these things at work, and I need you and I want you to be smart when you're going to the grocery store and running around town in your personal life. Because I don't want to see any more positives. I don't want to see you bring that back into your house with your family, you know, for your parents or your kids or anything like that. You're our most important asset. You're our number one priority, and you remain that way. Lorna, you got anything to close on?
Thank you for what you do every day, and be safe. Keep
Thanks,
your
gang.
family safe.